Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'm going to discuss the case of a real Brexit Billy who voted to ruin their future plans, but also take a look at another aspect of the way Leave voters were lied to and allowed themselves to be lied to, in this case because people just didn't understand the single market. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So this is the second recent report I've seen of a Leave voter buying a property specifically in Italy and now discovering that they're not actually allowed to live there. They've bought the property, oh, not allowed to live there, even though they would have been able to really easily if they'd remained in the EU. And these are the really baffling Leave voters for me. See, they had plans to go to the EU, to live in the EU, and yet voted to leave. But this second way is way more baffling for me, because the first report I came across, I didn't even do a video on it, it was just one of those things. And it was from someone who thought Brexit wouldn't make any difference to their plans. Now, you can look at that and go, well, how did you think that? Well, you can have a certain amount of sympathy with it. People were told that we wouldn't lose any of the benefits, and you go, well, shouldn't they have been wise to the old adage, there's no such thing as a free lunch? Yeah, sure. But even Brexit campaigns were arguing that we should remain in the single market. If we'd remained in the single market, even leaving the EU, these guys would still be able to live in their Italian homes. But this second one is especially baffling to me. Don't want to spend the whole video picking on them, because we need people to feel that they can change their minds without pointing and laughing. Seriously, one of the real blocks on beating Brexit is the problem of former supporters fearing the reaction if they come out, so to speak, as saying that they were wrong. But I have to make a small exception here, because there are two really crazy aspects to this latest report. The first is that this particular person, a 35-year-old graphic designer, bought the property 2 years ago, it says. So that's 2021 then. So we'd already left the EU and we'd left the single market at that point. The new Brexit rules on residency would have been in place and known. How did he not check them out in advance? When he was buying the house, why did he not think, am I allowed to live here? This isn't like someone who had these plans before we left and no one really knew what the terms of leaving were going to be because it was very last minute, and then they fell foul of them when they saw the reality. The reality was firmly in place when he made his financial commitment. Oh, and to add insult to injury, he didn't just buy the house. That cost a certain amount. He spent even more than the actual the value of the house on renovating it into a bed and breakfast, according to the report. Only after doing all this did he discover that he didn't meet the residency requirements. Now, at this point, I'm kind of figuring this guy doesn't do his homework. It is remarkable that a 35-year-old was even able to earn enough money to invest like this, given their attitude to forward planning. They must be an awesome graphic designer, that's all I can say. And the second baffling aspect of the article pretty much confirms my suspicions. According to the report, this guy calls him Ben in the report, but, you know, it says that that's fake. It's, you know, they're protecting his identity. It's fair enough. So Brexit Billy didn't think that Brexit would not make any difference to their plans. No, this was crazier. Because the first guy I read in the report a couple of months ago, I think it might have been, I didn't think it would make any difference. Okay, I can understand why you'd think that. No, this is way worse. He actually thought Brexit would make his plans easier. You what, mate? Easier? So let's get this right. So inside the single market, we can set up a business or home anywhere within that market. That's how the market works. We have to abide, obviously, by the local laws, you know, where we wish to do so. Planning permission, you know, making yourself known to the local authorities as opening a business, all that sort of thing. Yeah, but there's no barrier to you doing it just because you don't have citizens in that country. It's as easy as for Brexit Billy to have set up that bed and breakfast in Italy as it was an Italian. How can you possibly get more free to live and work in another country than being completely free to live and work in another country? How could it possibly be easier? He says that he thought it'd be easy because he has American friends who did it. It's like, yeah, it doesn't mean it was easier for them, does it? Like, he says they're his friends. Did he not think to ask them how the process works out? Did he not say to them one day, oh, did you just buy the place, renovate it and then move in? Because they would have said to him, no, You could do that. We couldn't do that. Because that's what they'd have told him. They'd have told him, no, we couldn't just rock up and say we're moving into this house. This guy is an idiot. But it does highlight the extent to which a lot of people were persuaded to vote leave based on lies which worked, not because they were idiots, but ironically because the EU works so well. Whether it comes to trading with fellow members or even being free to travel around Europe or just live in another member state, the EU single market made it all so simple. Everything like that was as easy as doing it in your own country. And this was, oddly enough, one of the main benefits to the pro-Brexit side. The EU made everything so stunningly easy that people just took all these freedoms for granted. They forgot there was a time when they didn't exist. Some may not have known. You know, before the single market was established, most people wouldn't have thought of hopping on a train to the continent for a weekend away. Then it became so easy that people did it in large numbers. You know, when I was growing up, like, for example, if you mail ordered something from within the UK, I'm not talking about like, you know, around Europe, just within the UK, you mail ordered something, you were told to allow 28 days for delivery. Now we grumble if it takes more than 2. Now, that's not an EU-based observation. I'm not saying the single market gave us that. What I'm saying, it's an observation on how easy it is to see a huge improvement in your life and then take it for granted because you're no longer mindful of the way it used to be. You know, Remainers talked about all the privations we were going to suffer, but so many voters just didn't believe it because, well, why would we? Why would that happen? Because what they saw were the freedoms. They didn't see the source. So they just thought it was part of ordinary life. You know, they didn't readily see how those freedoms would disappear with Brexit. They didn't see how they came as a result of being in the single market. Like, people, even now, still don't actually know what anything to do with the EU is. They don't actually know what the EU is. They don't know what the customs union is. They don't know what the single market is. And that's now, after it's been in the news for the best part of a decade. How much more ignorant were the general public in 2016 when it was never been reported on? You know, the single market was just there in the background, making trade and movement really easy without making a fuss. You know, perhaps the great failure of Remainers was in public relations. See, look at politicians, for example. So what do? I mean, we know the good ones try to make life better for us and the bad ones make life better for themselves. But what do all politicians do? Self-promotion. They have themselves pictured with everything good that's happening in their sphere of influence and published far and wide. They associate themselves with everything. They're constantly pointing out how they achieved this or that to the benefit of the public, whether it's true or not. There was never any promotion of the EU or the single market in Britain. We have the signs, of course, you know, when a project has been funded, you know, by the EU. There's a sign there saying this received EU funding. But Leave voters were told, well, we'll just pay for the same things out of the savings on the EU budget. And that made sense. Didn't happen. But you can't say it wouldn't have made sense to a member of the public. But there was no promotion of how the single market was allowing our economy to grow. No promotion of how it made holidaying on the continent cheaper and easier. No promotion of how it helped keep the cost of essentials down. It was one thing for people to vote to leave the EU, when all the campaigns were saying, we're going to remain in the single market. No, Daniel Hannan, no one is talking about leaving the single market. And he was right, no one did. Nigel Farage, of course we're not going to leave the single market. But look how quickly and easily they all flipped to, of course we must leave the single market as soon as the referendum result was in. It should never have been that easy. It was only that easy because people just didn't know what the single market was. Not all of them were as thick as the guy in this article. They just didn't know what it was or how it works to make their lives easier. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.